My name is Erica Marin-Spiotta, and on behalf of my co-authors, I would like to talk about building partnerships to transform workplace climate across organizations and disciplines, and thinking about how do we catalyze change to address the problem that our STEM fields do not represent society. We have certain demographics that continue to be underrepresented. If we looked at the representation of women, we've seen some fields that have reached gender parity, or women are a majority in student levels, but continue to be underrepresented in senior leadership positions. And if we look at the representation of racial and ethnic groups, are grossly underrepresented in many STEM fields compared to society. There's been a lot of focus historically on thinking about gender equity at the expense of other axes of identity. And so if we compare looking at biology, where 60% of biology students are women, we only have about 1% of ecology and evolutionary biology PhDs who identify or who are Black, and less than 1% are Native American and Alaska Native. And we really need to think about the problems of underrepresentation as, beyond this question of bias and leaky pipeline, and really think about hostile and working and learning environments that a lot of historically and currently marginalized and minoritized groups continue to experience in terms of gender harassment, sexual harassment, racial discrimination, ableism, and other types of discrimination. And so the problem is that discrimination, racism, and harassment persist due to severe power imbalances, a culture of impunity, historical and current structures of exclusion, and stereotypes of scientists as heteronormative and ableist cisgender white men. And to change this, we need to think about moving beyond legal compliance to address workplace climate and culture. A lot of these exclusionary behaviors that we want to address do not even rise to the level of legal. So we really need to think about how do we change our expectations for what appropriate culture is. And to do this, we need to have a community effort across all levels, from individuals to thinking about departments, organizations, professional societies, and funding agencies, to think about how do we work together to transform the academy from within the academy, but also how do we leverage our partnerships and networks from outside the academy to change the culture in a discipline. And thinking about how do we activate different types of communities. Specifically, I want to highlight the role of peer mentoring networks, both formal and informal, in building relationships of trust and support, developing sense of belonging and connection, and really important for connecting across communities, across borders of universities, and providing opportunities for leadership, such as this number of organizations here that are really important community-wide partnerships for change that have been working together to change culture in the earth and space sciences. The Earth Science Women's Network that I've specifically been involved in has been really successful at working with larger scientific organizations to build collaborations for transforming culture and policy. And this brings me to the role of professional associations like the Ecological Society of America or the American Geophysical Union that really have a role for setting expectations for ethical conduct through policies and education, can provide opportunities for leadership across hierarchies, and can build accountability for society members and leaders, and really set the tone and expectations for ethical conduct in disciplines. The ADVANCEGeo partnership that I'm involved with has brought together people from across universities and scientific organizations to thinking about how do we transform workplace climate. And we're doing this through collecting data to better understand experiences, activating community accountability through bystander intervention and codes of conduct, and think about identifying harassment, bullying, and discrimination as research misconduct, and developing collaborations across disciplines. Our approach looks at problems of underrepresentation and inequities in STEM as a function of social injustice and oppression, really focusing intersectionality, using a feminist ethics of care, and highlighting a responsible conduct of research. And finally, I want us to think about reaching across communities and building partnerships to reimagine the scientific enterprise, interrogate our history, think about how do we prioritize safety in people, value all labor, and finally redefine scientific success. Thank you.